Hi everyone, it's Maddie Brady. We're here to get real about mental health. Stay tuned for some great conversations with some very special guests. Hi everyone, welcome to Get Real. We are here with Garrett from Goldies, and he's here to hear a little bit about being a non-drinker in New York City and what that's like.
Thanks for having me, Maddie.
Of course. So when you came to New York City, you said you were still drinking. How did you get to the point where you're at now?
Well, I think, for me, when I started drinking, I'm from Canada. I'm from a suburb north of Toronto, and, growing up, and it's very similar in New York as it is in back home. It's part of your identity growing up. Like, you would go to house parties, or you would go to, drinking was part of the university experience, and it kind of, for me, for the longest time, it was a part of my identity. I was a drinker. Hey, you want to go party? Hell yeah. Hey, you want to go grab drinks after work? Hell yeah. And, it was only until it was kind of just becoming such a massive drag on my life that I was like, had to take that step back and be like, wait a second, what is going on here? I'm overweight. I'm not happy. I've been getting into fights with my girlfriend. And then once you start to zoom out and look at the common denominators through all this stuff, I was like, okay, let's try this non-drinking thing out. I had only even known one person who didn't drink my entire life. I knew one person that was like, hey, I don't drink. And it was, a real estate agent back in Toronto, funny enough. And I remember the first time that he ever told me he didn't drink, I remember thinking it was weird. It was a little odd because you tie that so much of that drinking to your identity, and it's like the things we tell ourselves too, by the way, to rationalize drinking, I could never trust a guy who can't drink. Oh. And it's just ridiculous at the end of the day. But so it was part of my identity. And then when I stopped, it was crazy how much everything snapped into place. And then that's kind of been my journey. And now, I talk a lot about it online because I think it's important for guys and girls to see that, hey, by the way, you don't really have to drink all the time to, have a great life. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, I remember too being younger and finding out that people didn't drink or different lifestyles and thinking that it was so strange too. I was saying before, I felt like the epitome of class back then was having a martini, having a bottle of wine at dinner, when in reality, most of the time, that's not the case. And even, I remember, funny enough, it was right before I stopped drinking. I remember seeing the situation from the Jersey Shore, stopped drinking, and I remember saying with my friend, I could never do that. I could never get to that point. It's so boring. He was going to a baby shower, and it was some episode we were watching, and I just kept saying I could never do that. That looks so boring. And when in reality, when you actually flip the switch and get to the other side, I've had so much more fun not drinking than I ever did drinking.
Yeah, it's funny. It actually pains me to hear my friends say that. Still to this day, I'm throwing parties where it's low-no parties where you don't have to, a lot of the people that come don't drink. And to this day, investors in my company go, man, I appreciate what you're doing, but I could never do that. And some people say it from legitimately, I drink a little bit too much and I know that and I'm aware of that, but it's kind of life. That's the path that I'm going down on life. And some people are coming at it from I enjoy drinking. I genuinely enjoy partying and drinking and getting banged up with my friends. And I don't want to lose that. And so, listen, to each their own, but I think that message, when you talk about the epitome of class and, I have to be having a glass of wine at dinner, that's messaging and advertising from a very large industry that's responsible for a very large portion of the GDP in this country, and it's a lot of jobs, and it subsidizes our whole restaurant industry, and that's messaging that you're not going to hear the other side of that message of until TikTok came around, by the way. It was, you're never going to hear a Super Bowl ad of somebody just coming on there and being like, hey, by the way, I don't drink. You don't have to. You know that? You don't have to drink. That's the ROI on that message is never going to get there. You're going to get Budweiser saying, hey, man, you want to have a good time at the game with the boys? Here's a Bud Light. So it's kind of, it's just everybody's got to kind of figure out their journey for themselves kind of thing.
Yeah, it really is all programming from a young age. Seeing those ads growing up, I've worked in restaurants and you want them to order. 2-3 drinks. If the table is a big drinking table, you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then to think about that on a large scale and the money companies make off of all of it. And now they are kind of switching. You do see Heineken 0.0.
Yeah.
You do see people coming to terms with the times, because people are now realizing, I think, even just today, there's more people than ever that are getting away from drinking.
Yeah.
And now companies are kind of latching on and saying, okay, there's actual profit in this. And then before a couple years ago, there really weren't any options. And is that how you came up with Goldies?
Yeah, so that's basically how it came about, was like, I was still going out with my friends. I had made a change in, my drinking habits, and was like, hey, I gotta reevaluate here. I'm gonna try this whole not drinking thing out. And it was crazy how quickly everything got pretty good for me. And I will say, one of the things that I was very lucky with is that I had stopped drinking right before the pandemic. So December of 2020 was when I kind of pulled back, and I tried to do the moderation thing for a second. It didn't work for me. Like I said earlier before we were off camera, I think for people whose identities that are drinkers, you have to go from, if you're at a 10 out of 10 drinking, the only way to get a 2 or a 3 is to go down to 0. You have to stop completely, and then if you want to reintroduce it, maybe that's the better way. But I find going from like a 10 to a 3 is almost impossible, because you're a drinker and everybody says, hey, you want one more? You don't learn the skills on how to cope with being out and socializing without drinking. So, that's how the Goldies thing started. So I was a non-drinker. Things got really good, but I will say I really benefited from the pandemic, because I had 2 or 3 months under my belt, and I was like not drinking. Everything was kind of getting really good, and then the pandemic happened, and I feel like with the pandemic, people went kind of two ways. One was like, okay, health and wellness, like, let me use this as an opportunity to get my act together. And then the other way was like, oh, like, I'm sitting at home and I'm drinking on a Wednesday now. All of a sudden I'm drinking, it's not at 7 p.m. anymore. It's at 5 p.m. now. It's at 3 p.m. I'm having a glass of wine. And it's like that divergence for me, it was a lot easier to stay at not drinking and stay at a very high output lifestyle, because I had already gone 3 months without drinking. And then, the weeks turned into months, turned into years. And then once things started opening back up again, it was like, all right, this is, I'm not going back. There's no reason to. I was in the best shape of my life. I was feeling the best about myself. I had been saving money. So it was, mental health. It was funny. I had never really struggled with mental health. It's not something that has been a battle for me, but you don't know how good not drinking is until you stop. And then it was like, oh wait, it can be even better than this. Like life was good for me, right? Like I was working at an investment bank. I had a great girlfriend, great job, was traveling the world. So there was never really like the internal battle, but it was just like, I did feel that there was a little bit something more that I was missing, and like I could be my best person. And that's when I kind of had that seed planted inside me to stop. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can so relate to that, especially with the pandemic. I think I had just about a year, possibly a year and a half too, when the pandemic hit. And I can't even imagine myself before in my drinking days in the pandemic.
Oh yeah, it'd be a nightmare.
It would have been an absolute nightmare. I mean, just getting together with friends, drinking in the middle of the day, because you had nothing going on. The whole world was shut down. And I think a lot of people did realize after the pandemic, I think that's why there is such a surge in non-drinkers, because people got so bad so quick, and they got to that rock bottom pretty hard from COVID, and now people are getting away from it and saying, you know what, I can socialize without alcohol. But as I was talking about with absence of proof too, that in the beginning, about 5 years ago, you literally would go to the bar and get a Diet Coke. You'd get a club soda. There were just no options. And it's so amazing that people like yourself took the initiative to make these great companies to be able to serve the people that don't want to just go out to the bar with all their friends, their work colleagues, and be ordering a club soda.
Oh, yeah, it's brutal. And it's like something that, the reality is the bars are, when we go to bars to try and sell into bars, it's especially with the older people that own the bars, when you say, hey, we're making these seltzers, like, well, here's our distributor or whatever, and they go, well, why would somebody come to a bar and not drink? And that's a mentality that I think people are going to have to eventually get away from. Like the bars that offer great NA options, they're going to thrive because now it's the people that are drinking and not drinking. And by the way, there is something in between. It's not binary for a lot of people. And like, that's kind of my message. If you can figure out a way to, if you go out normally and drink 6 drinks, well, if you could go out and drink 4 or 3 and supplement that with not a Diet Coke, because then that's basically serving it to you in a sippy cup, but like something that's like a little more elevated, like hell yeah, like that's the goal. If you can figure out a way to make it cool to order a non-alc, or make it cool to have like one beer and one NA beer. Like that's if we can get there as a society, I think a lot of people will feel a lot better about themselves.
Absolutely. Some balance where the people that don't drink don't have to feel like such an outsider at the bar. Where I have a lot of friends. I have friends all over the spectrum, and I do have a lot of friends that would benefit and enjoy an NA drink and then a regular drink and then maybe one NA drink and then call it a night. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what we do with all the Goldies parties. I call them low-no parties, and we serve, generally speaking, we serve like low alcohol cocktails. So it's like, a little spritz or something like that, or maybe a wine, but it's certainly not like shots or, heavy dirty martini, like nothing really like that. But I think it's just like, especially for people that identify as drinkers, while I feel like it's necessary that there are parties and events for people who are sober, and like that's a very safe space and taking 100% night off, I think that if you're going to have the biggest impact, you got to cater to the people that are like, it says something about yourself if you're like, yeah, I'm going to a sober event. Like, I'm cool with it because like I know the deal. But for somebody who's a drinker, why would they ever go to a sober event? Like, it's just something that it's a tough step to take. Like, even though that shouldn't be, it is a tough step mentally, internally to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to try and say, hey, yeah, come, but there's absolutely no pressure. Like, we actually have whereas a normal bar might have 10 cocktails and 2 NAs, we have 10 NAs and 2 cocktails, like in terms of the ratio of drinks that you offer. So like that's the kind of deal of like, hey, you can feel free to, but you don't have to.
I couldn't agree with you more because I've gone to some of the sober events and completely NA events, and as I love them, I feel like bringing friends that are drinkers, it's kind of like, you're dragging them along.
Yes, exactly.
And they're doing it for you.
Yep.
And I think it's great to go to a space where it's, okay, this is for both of us.
Yeah.
Because I was saying before, a lot of times I go to the regular bars with my friends and all of that, so it is great that they can come to a non-alcoholic bar, but where is the space for both of us?
Yeah, exactly.
We're both getting a drink that we love, and we're both vibing with the environment and feel great.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And that's kind of the party of, if you can capture that kind of bar atmosphere where it's like high energy event, and you're doing it while drinking 80% less or 60% less, like that is, I mean, that's the job. That's what you're trying to do. And that's what you're trying to normalize. And like, that's kind of been my mission.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people that just want to drink less, that don't have a problem. They don't want to take it out entirely, but they are getting to the age. It's a pivotal age where you start to get older and people start to realize, okay, I don't want to go out and take shots all night. Yeah. I don't want to just drink garbage and feel like garbage in the morning. Yeah. But there are certain people that do want to continue to drink but not have those awful negative effects of it.
Yeah, but also surrounding yourself with people that are a little bit more mindful as well. So like, generally speaking, I went out on St. Patty's Day down to Stone Street last night. Like, what is a sober guy doing down on Stone Street? And it's like, I still want to be in that environment, but the reality is like a lot of the people there are pretty fucked up. Like, and it's like not like, like the lights are on and no one's home, and that's cool. And like, whatever, I'm going to a drinking space, but like those types of people that are, ordering shots at the bar, like the reality is I don't really care to be around it. Don't like, I want to surround myself with people that are not necessarily sober, by the way. I don't care, but that are a little bit more mindful drinking. And the types of people that are doing that, the doctors, lawyers, engineers, investment bankers, like all these kinds of people that are like a little bit more further in their careers, like that's who's coming to these events, right? Like it's all cool. It's pretty cool great. Crowd of, like really fun, successful young people. And like think about the types of people that drink less are like kind of, you're more healthy. You're probably not as, you're a little bit in better shape.
Better
your
shape
skin's
for
a little
sure.
better. Your hair's a little better. You have a little bit more positive outlook on life. So like, there's that element as well of like, what are the types of people you want to surround yourself with? And that's kind of what we've been able to capitalize on.
Yeah, definitely more self-awareness too. That's something that, I mean, I would hope that all of my friends have great self-awareness, and I just feel like I feel better surrounding myself around people that are like that. And I feel like I came to a point in my journey where in the beginning of when I stopped drinking, I felt like I had to prove myself that, oh, I can still go to places like Stone Street. I still can go to the club till 3 a.m. And I kept making myself and forcing myself to do that. And then I realized, wait a second, I don't really like this. I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not making meaningful relationships at all. At the end of the day, not saying anything's wrong with those people, but I'm not going to click with them. It's not going to be my best friend. It's not going to be someone I'm going to click with long term.
Exactly. Versus if you could go to a party where some people are drinking just a little bit less, those types of people, generally speaking, are the types of people you want to surround yourself with. And that's the deal. And that's what a low-no party is. And that's kind of where, they've been fun. We've been doing concerts and we do.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We got rooftops and outdoor parties. And that's one of the benefits about being in New York for so long. Like, I think there's a lot of people that want to do these kind of startup-y style events. And at the start when we were getting going, like, I have a ton of friends in New York now, like a ton. So being able to be like, yo, I'm throwing a party. We're going to do a little low-no thing. I don't have to, even if it's 50% my network, and you're supplementing that with 50% of people from TikTok or Instagram or a friend of a friend that might have heard about it, that's still, it's so much easier to get the ball rolling in terms of momentum and like people saying like, oh yeah, this is a pretty sick party. Well, it's a pretty sick party because like, these are all my friends that have been living in New York for 10 years. We kind of get the deal, right? So we'll like we rented out like a schooner, like a big sailboat, and we'll like go toot around Manhattan Harbor. Oh yeah, they're wild.
So fun.
So much fun. Yeah, super.
That's great.
Yeah, really good time. So it's like that kind of style of people that are all, having a great time. Like it's just a really more mindful partying time. And it's so funny to see how it changes. I tell this story all the time so the last time we did the boat party, we had bought like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of booze, and I brought obviously like all of my Goldies, like I sponsored the party. And it was this beautiful, it was a hot day, and we were, you go by the Statue of Liberty, under the Brooklyn Bridge, like all around the harbor there. And at the end of the day, we had $2,000 worth of booze left, and all the NA drinks were gone. So like, it's funny when you give people the choice of like, yo, here's a great option. You like, when you're standing there on a boat and you're like, hey, I could have like a great seltzer or an NA drink or a cocktail. People gravitate, like the balls settle where once the dust settles, you're like, oh my God, actually everybody's kind of not drinking that much. They're just having a great time.
That's really surprising, actually. You wouldn't think that it would lean that way. So that's really good to hear that is the general way that we're going.
Yeah, and I think, with events, and especially when I was growing up, we used to throw these parties that were all you can drink parties that were like billed as all you can drink, and like, hey, there's that mentality with an all you can drink party where it's like, okay, I spent $100 for a ticket. I'm going to spend $10 a drink per drink. So if I drink 10 drinks, then I get my value's worth. And it's like, oh my God, what a JV way of looking at like life. What a loser way of looking at like, you're going to try and get value out of your drinks versus getting value out of the experience. And like, one of the struggles with non-alc events is trying to show people, hey, you might be paying $150 for a ticket, but it's not, yes, it's all you can drink, but don't look at it like that.
It's the experience.
It's the experience. Yeah. And people, I think, generally speaking, people are trying to still figure out how to, market that. That's a tough thing to market, to get people to say, hey, but, cash bar still works in some cases, or drink, for me, I always do drink tickets. Hey, $40, you get 2 drink tickets. Yeah. And then it's cash bar after that. Like that's a pretty good way to kind of.
It's crazy to think, though, that that's hard to market, that you're trying to convince people that spending your money on an actual experience and time that you're going to remember for the rest of your life is worth doing, rather than, okay, you can get 10 drinks out of it. You're probably going to remember nothing or a fraction of the night. I used to do the same thing. I used to throw massive parties, and we would strategize how to get the cheapest alcohol. So you're drinking just awful booze.
Yeah.
And just trying to get as much. It was all about just the quantity that you could get your hands on to throw these parties. And it was almost an allure to get people there too. Oh, like, you should see my fridge. Like, it's stocked,
it's such a, I mean, it's a young man's game of like how it's kind of just the continuation of the frat mentality of like, hey, we're gonna get the cheapest kegs, put them in the center of the room, and like see what happens. But that's kind of the deal with drinking. Is it's kind of a easy way to have a good time, because it is. But you know what's a hard way? Getting a sick band. You know what's a hard way? Renting out a sailboat. Or getting a rooftop party going. Like, those are hard things to do, and the easy thing to do is to go to a shitty bar and throw a keg in the center of the room and say, go wild. So, it's a low effort way to have a good time. And now it's kind of, it's on the event organizers and the party throwers to, like, you can't just get away with having booze. You have to do more.
And I think too, having those parties with mass amounts of alcohol and all of that, it's people looking for instant gratification. It's people that aren't willing to put the work in on themselves, where they think, I can be in any environment and have a good time because I love myself and I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with the people that are here, that are surrounding me. A lot of people that just go out every night together and are friends don't even like each other.
They're not friends. But that is something that people... Sometimes you don't even know, you don't know what you don't know. You just get into these habits, and it's just like, oh, I went to high school and I drank, and I went to university and I drank, and then I went to, and then I moved to New York City and I drank, and it's like, that's all you know. And you don't even know that there's another way. And until you see somebody that's like, hey, by the way, I don't drink. I think I throw pretty good parties. Like, they're pretty awesome. But like, I still go out with my friends. I still go on golf trips with my friends where everybody's getting banged up. And it's like CEOs, founders, investment bankers, lawyers, private equity guys that are just like still party in their kind of party mode. But like, it's not, and I'm like the guy who doesn't drink. And it's just like, hey, you can still do it. It might look a little different. I'll give you an example. The last one was in New Orleans in the fall. And the very last day I was getting a little bummed out because we were all on Bourbon Street, and Bourbon Street, it's like wild zoo, and they were all drinking, and I was walking down Bourbon Street, it was like 11:30 or 12, and I was like, you know what, I had to fly home the next day. It's like, you know what, I'm not having not that I wasn't having a great time, I wished I was having a better time. Like, all my friends are there, and we're having, it's this golf tournament that everybody goes to, and I was like, you know what though, we've had a long day, we've had a long couple days, I'm going home, I'm gonna get a good night's sleep, and that way I'm coming home from the vacation a little more well rested versus some guys who are out partying all night and then get right on the plane, and then you almost need a vacation from your vacation. Yeah, and it's when I say it looks a little bit different now, that as a non-drinker, like, that's something that you just have to kind of get comfortable with. Like, hey, yes, you can still go to the club. I'm not out there till 4 a.m. anymore. I might only go till 2, and that's something you just got to be okay with. Or Stone Street last night, St. Patrick's Day, I'm going home at 11.
Absolutely. I keep saying now, I don't need to be out past 12 o'clock. I really don't. There's no reason. But I just feel like at that point, nothing good is happening past 12. I sound like a parent saying that, but it's true. It's like anyone who's out that late, it's the people that are going out just to get drunk. No one's just having a good, interesting conversation at 2 a.m.
That's why I always start the Goldies parties at 8 p.m. Everybody thinks you're insane, but I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? 8 till 12,
That's
man.
my dream. That's my dream. 8 is like golden time.
Yeah, I know. Everybody, it used to be 10:30, right?
No,
like,
I love that.
Yeah, it used to be 10:30, 11. I wouldn't show up to the bar before midnight. And now I'm like, oh, fuck, 8 p.m. Like, let's go.
I remember starting to do your makeup with your friends at like 11 o'clock at night. Like, just looking back, it's absolutely insane because why? Why were we even all going out that late?
Well, it's so funny too for the low-no parties because you put them at 8 p.m. because you know how sometimes when you used to be drinking, you'd say, hey, everybody come at 9 p.m. But you knew that means they're going to come at like 10:30.
Yeah.
But with like low-no parties and with people that don't drink or drink less, when you're like 8 p.m., people are like lining at the door. They're like, okay, let's fucking go here. Like,
I have to get to bed tonight.
It's like, all right, 8 p.m., let's go party out.
Yeah.
Right, here we
no,
go.
I love that. Especially when it's a nice day. You want to get get the party going and like the high vibe situation going early.
Let's just gotta move on with it, man.
Yeah.
We all got, like I always say, like if you can go to a Goldies, like a low-no party and then make a workout class on Friday, like then I've done my job, man. Like that's perfect. Like if you can be in bed by midnight and get up for an 8 a.m. class or something on a Friday, chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yeah. People always ask me, they always say, would you date someone that drinks? And thinking about your parties, it sounds like the perfect situation, because I always say, I absolutely do not care if someone drinks or not, but they can't have a bad relationship with alcohol. They can't be blacking out. They're not the ones out till 2 a.m.
Yep.
But I could care less if a partner drinks, doesn't drink, whatever, as long as they are a good person and intentional about their habits. How do you feel on that?
Yeah, so drinking and dating in New York City, it's such a beast. I mean, a lot of my content, I talk about it because I'm in the same boat. I don't care if my partner drinks or doesn't. I think that, when you look at like Hinge or whatever, you ever see the ones where it's like, what do I order for the table? Shots of tequila. Like the reality is I'm not really putting myself in a situation where I'm sitting across from that person to begin with. So like the people that I'm kind of attracting and the people that I'm going after are low alcohol people. Like I don't care if you order a cocktail. Now, if you order 3 on a date, I would probably be like, okay, like why?
Yeah.
Like that's probably where we get into a little bit, because there is like also that little bit of dynamic of like, yo, I'm not drinking. Like I don't want you to be like banged up on a date, or like not even a first. Don't even forget first date. Even like if you're dating someone, like your partner, like I don't really want to be in a situation where you're drinking a lot and I'm not. So like I wouldn't really put myself in that situation to begin with. But it's been funny. So I'm off dating apps now. I don't use them anymore. I think it's like for me, like mentally, I think it gives people a false sense of choice. Yeah. Paralyzed by indecision of like, there's always, I think it commodifies the dating experience of like, on to the next. Or if I think another thing is it gives people an excuse to not be kind to other people. It's like the first thing that you say wrong. Like imagine if you said something in this podcast where like I was like a little annoyed with, and I just get up and leave. Oh, there's another podcast out there. I'll just go there. Yeah. Like it'd be like ridiculous. Like people aren't as empathetic or as agreeable when it comes to that kind of thing. So I'm off the dating apps for that choice. And it's funny. It took me months and months. I've been off dating apps for years now, and probably a year. And just now I'm starting to like get comfortable with approaching people, and a lot of people online will be like, hey, yeah, I see you're not drinking. Are you around? I would love to go for coffee or something like that. Even though I'm against coffee dates, by the way. Really? Anti.
Why?
Hard anti-coffee dates.
Really?
It's so juvenile. Oh my God, grow up. What is this, an interview?
Okay. Come on. You're right.
You would go on a coffee date with somebody?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't be excited. You're right that I wouldn't be wowed. As a woman, I wouldn't be impressed.
I feel like a coffee date, as a guy, if I ask you for a coffee date, it says to me like, hey, he doesn't really care that much. Yeah. And there's a pretty stark divide. I'm going to say this. We'll post this clip online. If like, I'm an anti-coffee date club. If you like somebody, if you are asking somebody on coffee dates, or you're getting asked on coffee dates, your filter isn't tough enough. You should be going for people like, and it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to be dinner. It can be picnic by the park. It can be, go to a grocery store and pick up some little like food, chop it up and go sit by the water. Yeah. Like do that. Picnic in Washington Square Park, like that kind of thing. Go for an ice cream and a walk, but it's not the coffee date. To me, it's just like, oh my God. Yeah. Please.
I would never think to be like, absolutely not, I'm not going if someone asked me for coffee. But yeah, it wouldn't be a good first impression by any means.
No, it says I don't care.
It does seem low effort. Yeah. Low, not to be like this, but low effort, low money. Yeah. Oh, here's a $2 coffee and we're just going to sit here. It doesn't seem like the way to woo someone.
No, it doesn't. And it's like, what are you trying to do here? I mean, and if that's what you're trying to do, where you're just trying to like do the shotgun approach of like, hey, I'm going to go meet like 15 people. First of all, I can't even deal with like 2 people at once. Like I'm a very much like a one kind of, I get stressed out. Yeah. Also, I don't feel good about myself when you're like talking to multiple people, which I do think, to be honest with you, is like a bit of something that is a negative. You should be okay with going into the talking stage with like 2 or 3 people. Like, hey, we're talking. Yeah, we've been seeing each other like a little bit. Like, it's not like you're you need to jump in and get married the next day. But I do think that you should be comfortable with, if you do everything in parallel, like, hey, I was talking to this girl for 2 or 3 months, and then this girl then I took a break for a month. And then the next thing you know, like, your kind of life is passing you by and you're like, oh, well, I've shut myself off. There's an opportunity cost there that of like, well, if you just start talking with somebody and then you're like, okay, I'll shut down. I'm not open to anything else. Well, that's probably not the way to do it. So,
yeah.
But I can't, like, the guys who are like, oh yeah, I'm going on. You should see, like, I don't even be humble brag here on thing, but like my guy friends, when they see your DMs, they're like, oh my God, dude, you could go on 40 dates a week. This is awesome. And I'm like, guys, no, absolutely not. Like, like you cannot. Yeah. Mentally, you cannot.
I think that's the same thing with like trying to drink as much as possible. Like, what are you actually getting out of that? If you're thinking long-term effects, what are you actually getting out of going on 40 first dates?
Yeah, I agree.
Not a lot.
And it cheapens the experience. Like, I still want to get butterflies when I go on a first date. I want to be a little nervous. I want to be a little bit like, oh, I wonder if she likes me. I hope this goes well.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, well, if this doesn't go well, I got 2 more coffee dates lined up. Forget that. That's annoying.
I went completely off apps as well because first of all, I think it's really hard to fit yourself into a profile and then also judge someone else based off a profile. And exactly what you're saying, there's just so many options, and then you don't answer, they don't answer, like it just is too overwhelming. But it's funny, before when I was back on them, mostly in Philadelphia, people would always, when I would say I didn't drink, people always went to the coffee. And it made me super uncomfortable because it's like, I can still go get a drink. It's not like I'm handicapped.
Well, I prefer that atmosphere. It is. It is an elevated atmosphere. Yeah. It is a more sexy, dark, sultry atmosphere. That is how you make a connection. Like, listen, it's not an interview. Like, you're trying to make a connection, and like my thoughts on date, like you need that. Connection, physical and spiritual, emotional connection, and you're just not going to get that in the coffee shop where it's like hospital lights and like, you know, I'm just like so anti that.
But that was happening a lot, and I would always feel super weird. I was like, do I tell them? Because it says no on my profile to the little, do you drink? Checkbox no. But it was always like, did they see that? Did they not? And then I would feel weird. Do I have to tell them right away? Do I have to tell them via app? Because it's not going to sound the same on the app as it would in person.
Yeah, I think because that a lot of people can kind of, when you say they don't drink, a lot of people say like, oh, do you have a problem with it? Or they have to walk on eggshells around the thing, which again, being in the sober space is like, for me, is a little bit odd because I don't like to say I'm sober. Yeah. I like to say I don't drink. And, you know, it's just because I don't want to misrepresent myself of like, I think drinking 99% less than what the general public thinks is acceptable. I think that's the way to live life. Yeah. And I think that's the healthiest relationship. You know, I do feel like sometimes people can get, if you have like one sip of alcohol, people could go, oh my God, this is going to derail me. And like, I got really nervous. The reason why I started having a glass of wine at weddings is because I didn't really like the number controlling me either, being like, oh, you know, I wonder how I'm going to react if I want. Well, it turns out like, it's fine. Yeah. For me, it's fine. Yeah. And like, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go off the rails. Like, I was almost like scared of myself, and I was like, oh, turns out, no, it's fine. Yeah. If you're in a really high vibe moment and your best buddy's getting married and you have a glass of wine to toast with, it's fine. Yeah. For me, again.
For me, I'm like 100% won't ever drink again, but I get the mindset you're talking about because I used to think like that too, like this fear of, oh my gosh. Like, so now I think of it more so like day to day so that I'm able to function and do what I like to do. I just think I don't drink because my life's better without it. Yeah. Because I think you can get scary pigeon-toed when you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to die if I have a sip. Yes, I agree. But I will never have a sip again, but I try to avoid thoughts like that so that it's not so dark.
I know, because I was thinking like that. I was like, oh man, you know, you're scared of yourself. And it was, for me, it was just like, oh no, it turns out everything's fine. Like I didn't have an issue stopping. Like when I stopped, I just stopped. Like I said, I tried to moderate for a little bit and was still getting hungover. I would still like, I found the moderation thing for me was like, when you're a drinker and you try and moderate, it's impossible because you're a drinker. So when the boys are like, hey, I never learned the skills to be like, hey, I'm going to get a non-alc drink. I'm gonna, like, I didn't even know. You don't know what you don't know. So, you know, for me now, it's like, hey, if you have a glass of wine, and I'm just so hyper aware of the negatives of alcohol now. Like, I think a lot of people are starting to talk about it a lot more, of like how it affects your sleep. Even one drink, like, you know, I always found it so funny when my boys, like, I got some of my buddies that are like big workout guys, and they'll like, you know, count every calorie and like every piece of broccoli to the T, and then like Friday night go and have 15 beers. And it's like, it's almost unbelievable to me that like, I'm just like, not to say like,
make it make sense.
Like, yeah, like the mental gymnastics that you have to do to go from like counting every grain of rice that you put in your body to having 15 beers is like, dude, you I don't want to be, listen, again, to each their own, but like, are you serious about it or are you not? And like, you know, when you look at your life holistically, like, you know, you can't be drinking 15 beers a couple times a week. That's insane. Like,
It is. With dating, what are some bad experiences or kind of horror stories that you
Oh
dealt
my
with?
God. You guys want to know the worst dating story? You want to know the worst dating story of all time? So December 2019, I had just stopped drinking, and I had met this girl, and it was a bit of a rainy day, and a buddy of mine told me to go to Pier 17 because they put up a skating rink on top of Pier 17. And, you know, I mentioned earlier I'm Canadian, so we're chatting on Hinge or whatever, and I'm going, yeah, you know, I'm Canadian. I was born on skates. I would have went to the show if I didn't hurt my knee, kind of thing. Oh yeah, me and Gretzky go way back, kind of thing. Yeah. So I had suggested we go to this skating rink because when I had stopped drinking, I was like, oh, I gotta find cool things to do that don't involve alcohol. So we got there and I rented some skates, and I don't want to make excuses. I'm not an excuse guy, but I'm just gonna say these skates were insanely dull. So I was skating, and I could feel every once in a while my skates were digging into the ice because it was a little bit it was a soft ice and dull skates. And I was wearing this Burberry white, like safari white trench coat because it was a little rainy. And we had gone in, and she got a drink, and I ended up getting like I don't know, like a hot chocolate. Like, it was like, I was like, what do you drink? I don't drink, so what can I have? Like, it's like, here's your kiddie menu or whatever. And we were having great conversation, and we go out and we're like, hey, let's do one more lap of the ice. We get out there, I take one step, both my skates jammed into the ice, face first. I thought I knocked my teeth out. I thought I knocked my teeth out. These two are fake to begin with, so I'm like, oh, fuck, you idiot. Yeah. I get up. I'm like, oh shit, did anybody see that? And like, nobody did. I'm like, oh my God. I check my teeth. They're all there. Good and start. I got the white coat on, and I'm like, continue skating. And she comes over and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. And I look down, blood all over my coat. I had busted my chin open.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I remember we had to go to the hospital. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst fuck. I'm either going to marry you or I'm never going to see you again. I feel like there's it's pretty
a bonding experience.
Yeah, honestly. Trauma bonding. And so we go to the hospital, and she's like, hey, can I stay with you? I'm like, absolutely not. Get the fuck out of here. I can't be dealing with it. So I ended up getting 6 stitches in my chin. My very first sober date, 6 stitches in my chin. I was like, this sober dating thing. Should have just gone for drinks, man. I would have been a lot safer.
Oh my gosh. That's a horrible way to start off sober dating.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had been asked to do a TV show too. That every once in a while, and I was gonna go do this TV show, and I was like, oh my God, you fucked your face up. I remember waking up just in so much pain. My chin was so sore, and that whole Christmas, I was so embarrassed. I was like, and you know, like, everybody has those drunk stories where like, yeah, I fell, I fucked my arm up or whatever. And it's like embarrassing, but like, this was legitimately like, I was sober as a judge and I just fell over. So it can be pretty horrible, but I think like once you learn to date sober, it's the best way to make connections with people. Oh yeah. Especially if you have to get a little bit more comfortable with yourself, and you have to get a little bit more like, figure out how to talk and figure out, and you can't hide. I have had so many dates when I was younger, like in my mid-20s, where I would just like, you would drink, and then it's just like, it covers up all the things that are important to talk about with a partner. Like you want to be talking with them. How do you feel about things? And you want to get have that kind of spiritual and emotional connection that you you normally wouldn't get when you're just kind of like, hey, you want another margarita?
Yeah, and it seems like when you're sober, you can actually ask more of the hard-hitting questions, and you do get to experience those feelings, the butterflies, the anxiety, all of that, and it actually feels real.
Yeah.
Rather than, I mean, you can really go on a date with anybody when you're drinking and make it into something, because you're not actually feeling what's going on in the date. You're feeling what's in your cup.
Totally agree. And I will say that there's elements of sober dating that I don't like. Like, I will say, like, the whole one night stand, lusty kind of thing, I don't do that anymore. Yeah. And it's like, you know, I don't have, not that I'm like, not that I care that much, but it's just like that kind of element of like, you know, passionate one night thing that doesn't happen anymore. And like it's what I was kind of talking about earlier, you just have to get comfortable with that. Like that's kind of the deal. You have to get comfortable with going home early on the guys' golf trip, because that is the sacrifice that you kind of have to make. And like that does mean that you have more genuine connections with people. That does mean that you have to go on 2 or 3 dates before you kind of, you know, there is no like, hey, you want to have another drink at my place kind of thing going on. And that's something that you kind of have to, you got to get comfortable with, and you got to figure out how to blast through that and like to go to the next level in relationships. Like, you've got to figure it out, man. Like, you can't rely on getting too drunk that one night and kind of, you know, breaking that wall down and then like moving on with your life. Like it's just a thing.
I think the entire hookup culture is based off of heavy drinking. Like, it's not something, our grandparents weren't in the hookup culture. It's something that's extremely, extremely new, and it is highly based upon getting really drunk. I don't really know anyone who goes out dead sober and ends up having a one night stand. So it is something that you have to actually build a connection. You actually have to get comfortable with the person. You can't just having that drink and the feeling of being drunk just coats everything, where you don't actually get to know them. It's not even special, and then it's like you're skipping steps because you're scared of the process of getting to that.
But step. The payoff is that kind of delayed gratification, and that not just with like sex and relationships, but like everything in life, by the way, now is like everything is so like press a button, get a car come, press a button, food at your door. And like that kind of delayed gratification when it comes to relationships is so, it makes it so much more worth it. Now there's not, like I said, there's elements of that like, hey, do I wish I could go out? Like, no, I never do that anymore. And it's like that, that's just something you come to terms with. And the dating and relationships, you're making more serious bonds with people, you know, you're more in touch with your relationship, with your feelings too. And it's just, it is the better way. It's the net better way to date. And and I find that women really respect the not drinking thing too. At first I was always like, oh, you know, it's a sign of maturity to have a scotch or a whiskey or a beer or whatever. And it's just like, no, it's not. Every girl that you've ever met has some bullshit story of their ex getting too drunk. Every girl has that fucking fight. Like, I do too, by the way. Like, you think I haven't gotten too drunk and gotten into fights with my girlfriends? Of course I have. And it's like, that's not, it was a huge part of why I wanted to stop drinking, because it was like, at the end of the day, you got to decide who you want to be. And who do you want to be? Ask yourself, if you're watching this on TV, who the fuck do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that's drinking and getting into fights with his girlfriend? Because you don't have to. You can be the guy that's like, be in great shape and it'll suck for fucking 2 months, 3 months, and then you learn all the skills you need to be, and then you're gonna have the best life you could ever possibly have. And like, I don't know, every time I talk to people of like, it's funny, I think that with this whole delayed gratification thing, I think a lot of people want to get sold, in American culture at least, a pill to make you feel good, or this, that. And like, at the end of the day, are you waking up early? Are you getting fresh air in the morning? Are you seeing the sun? Do you go for a walk? Are you eating vegetables? Are you not drinking? Are you exercising? Like, are you sleeping 8 hours a day? Are you stressed out at work? Can you take a step back? Do all those things and then get back to me of like, how you're feeling. Do that for 3 months. What's 3 months? And then like that kind of delayed gratification, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, like this is the way to do it. Yeah.
Everyone wants a quick fix nowadays. Yeah. And I just feel like nothing worth actually having, you're going to get quickly. And why would you even want it if you don't go through the feelings of working towards it? Like, nothing's going to feel as good if you didn't put the work in. If you just have something and then it's kind of like the on to the next. I already got it so quickly. It's meaningless. It's completely meaningless. But I actually found when I started sober sober dating, a lot of guys were weird with it.
100%. Guys are weirder than girls.
Yeah.
Guys are way weirder than girls.
Yeah. And I had to start questioning their intention. Why would this guy
100%
be weird with it?
100%.
Because that's a little sketchy.
100%.
Like, why does this guy need me to be drinking?
Yep.
And I had to realize at first I did struggle a little bit with, oh my gosh, am I ever going to find a guy that actually is okay with it? I used to think, nonetheless, actually respect it and admire it and all of that. And I just realized I was surrounding myself with the wrong types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to realize if they're not going to respect it and love it and think it's great or admirable in some type of way, then I can't be around
100%.
them.
Yeah.
And then finally there was a little lull where I was like, where are the people that think this is cool? And then once I broke to the other side, there were a lot of people that do actually respect it, whereas before I was thinking, will anyone even accept it?
Yeah.
And now people are like, it's so amazing.
Well, generally speaking, with the drinking thing, when somebody is critical of it, or it's actually a direct reflection and projection of how they feel about their relationship with alcohol. If you ever meet somebody where like, oh, yo, you don't drink, that's fucking weird, dude. Like, what do you mean you don't chug beers? And like, for me, it was, I got a lot of good things going on in my life, so I don't need to like justify that to anybody. But I do think that for somebody that might be like, hey, I'm trying to get back on my feet, or I'm trying to make a big change in regards to fitness, or maybe I want to go get a promotion. I don't have like everything going on in my life right now, and I'm going to take alcohol away. And you're surrounding yourself with people that are like, well, you mean you're not going to have a beer? And it's, I can empathize with how that's a tough thing to be like, to have that mental fortitude, that internal fortitude to be like, no, I'm not going to have a drink. It's tough.
Absolutely.
It's really tough. And it's, again, it's just a reflection of how they feel about their relationship with alcohol. Just a projection.
Absolutely.
I get it all the time on TikTok where like every once in a while I'll post about not drinking, and it's funny. You can see posts go into different sub communities. Like if I'll post one about my dad, I'll kind of get into like the dad and mom side of TikTok that are like, oh my God, this is so heartwarming. Or if I post one about not drinking, you can go down into the sober. Sometimes when I post about partying and not drinking, you can go down into the like the shithead shit poster subgenre of people that are like, oh, yo, this is fucking lame. And I'm like, sometimes I still let them have it back. Like I think my like Garrett from Goldies persona online is very like golden retriever, very happy guy. But sometimes I just gotta let him fucking know, like, listen, buddy, you're laying bricks out there in the middle of nowhere. Do not talk to me.
Well, that's what so I'm just trying to get into TikTok, and I had like a couple videos do okay. And I did notice some people did comment, oh, what, did we pregame before? This is a lie. No one's actually having fun with no alcohol, and kind of making shots at it and making fun of it. I posted a picture the other day of myself at an absence of proof event, and someone said it was an espresso martini, and someone said, yeah, I'll take an espresso martini minus the martini. I was like, okay. And at the end of the day, first of all, it does have non-alcoholic vodka in it, and regardless, okay, what if it is just espresso in a cup? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Like,
well, the thing is too, but because those shit posters comment on yours, it gets sent to other shit heads, you know what I mean? And then they comment, and then it's like a self.
I saw that on the TikTok. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 comments in a row with people saying these bizarre things, and they had like crazy TikTok names and stuff. You just know their life before you click on it.
Yeah,
so I don't even answer, because I'm like, if you're taking the time to write that, I'm not taking the time to respond.
Oh, see, I'm a huge believer in the block and delete, like huge, like Insta, Nano.
Yeah.
I'm a 0 strike policy guy when it comes to like the block button. Like if I even get your vibe is off, like out, see you later.
I feel like if I'm getting hate, I'm doing something right, because if you're doing something powerful, people are going to love it and people are going to hate it.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything worthwhile or powerful or making an impact, making some waves, people will just like it, feel indifferent. If you're going to have people super passionate about the message that you're getting out there, people are going to hate it and fight back just as much.
100%. Yeah.
Because it's also making them highlight their insecurities. It makes them feel a certain type of way that they're uncomfortable with. Yeah,
well, you're going against the grain. Like you're going there. The reality is in New York and LA, a lot of people kind of are down with the no drinking message, but everywhere else, it hasn't really hit yet. Like it's still very much like a party. Like, and I always say it with the drinks, with the Goldies shit, is like, you can sell drinks you can sell seltzers in New York and LA. Anybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sell them in St. Louis?
Yeah.
You know, can you sell them in San Antonio? Like these are
Detroit.
like, yeah, can you sell them in Detroit? Like these are places where people are drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, it's important for people to talk about it because, especially existing in an alcoholic world, I saw a crazy stat that something like 80% of people who make more than $100,000 drink. And I always, for some reason, have thought of that the opposite of like, oh yeah, low income people, they're the ones kind of drinking their life away. But it's actually completely opposite. So if you're making a lot of money, you have to figure out how to exist in spaces that, you know, where people drink.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
There's those TikToks or reels and all of that about what's something that's classy when you're rich and trashy when you're poor. Drinking.
Yeah, 100%.
Main one. Party drugs.
Yeah.
Another big one. It seems like both communities are doing it, but it's painted in such a different light in both, and it's because of marketing.
Yeah, I think like the troubled rich kid party atmosphere is like that's a story that's been told a million times.
Yeah.
Like we can see it. You can see it with any person, by the way. Like, you know, right away, like, oh my God, like you gotta rely. And I think it just comes from like an abundance mindset of like, oh my God, I have to do everything all the time and like party. And especially with people in the media, I feel like bad. I feel bad for people that kind of get sucked down that path. I've seen a few people lately that are like, oh, whoa, dude, like, are you not surrounding yourself with people that are like, yo, you need to get your fucking act together here. Like, if I ever saw one of my boys that was kind of going off the deep end like that, it is insta like, yo, dude, let's get it together.
Yeah.
Like,
that's amazing. That, I think, is something that needs to be highlighted more. Men helping other men.
Yeah.
And men having good guy friends that look out for each other and lift each other up, because it's something that isn't as common as it should be.
Oh, it's something that I have been so lucky to have found my group of friends here in New York City. Like, it's mainly Canadian dudes, but we've got a couple other dudes as well. There's a couple American guys that have tacked on. But I think one of the benefits of it, like the sneaky reason why Canadians and Australians are good here, is because you need a visa to be here. So as part of getting a visa to work in the United States, you need a company to say, hey, this is a promising young employee. We are going to sponsor their work visa. So it's almost a natural filter in terms of like the types of quality of people, or people that are like high achievers, people who are cool people at work. So that it was almost like a little natural filter of like, think about all the cool doctors, lawyers, engineers, bankers that would be able to come down here. And I surround myself with people that are like span different professions. So it's like, you know, we're not really in competition with each other. It's always like supporting. And we go on these golf trips, for example, where it's like, nobody's ever pressuring me to drink or do drugs. There's nothing like that. It's very much like, yo, if you're taking a pass, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go hit the dance floor. Like,
that's
that.
Great.
There is no like, because there is that element of drinking that I think people like. There is that little bit of shared. We're getting fucked up together, and there is like a shared bonding experience about that, especially with your younger. And I think everybody needs to understand. You need to go through it, but like once you grow out of it, I think sometimes people, they're still like, yo, what do you mean I lost my old drinking buddy? Like, we're not going to go stay out until 2 a.m. anymore. And it's like, no. And I think for some people, they can get a little bit offended by that. So they're like, yo, come on, you're not going to have one drink. Come on, have a beer with me.
Yeah. And
like, there's none of that with my group of friends. We actually had a guy in New Orleans this year. So we had 16 guys go on the trip. And one guy had to drop out, and he was replaced last year with a random guy that was like huge drinker, like, and which again fits in with our group of friends, but he was like, yo, here's shots, and like forcing them on. And I remember we were at a bar, and he's like, hey man, you want a shot? And he's like, no, I'm good, buddy, I don't drink. And he goes, oh, you really want a shot? We're in a group of 4 guys. The other 3 guys go, yo, he said he's not drinking.
I love
fucking
that.
Sit down. Yeah.
Yeah, back up.
You've got, and like that, it's crazy how just like that mentality permeates into all the guys now. So it's like all a bunch of beauties that lift each other up and want the best for each other. Yeah. And like, it's male friendship that I think it's an element that's missing. I think a little bit people can be like, I don't know. Some guys can be just like, they can be dicks and abrasive, and like we don't really have that in our
I think it shows a level of security within
yes.
all of yourselves that you're able to do that and still want the same. It's the same thing with women. The women that have the catty relationships, the drama, all of that with each other are insecure. So it's exactly the same, but males show it in different ways where they are more abrasive or just not open to having real meaningful connections with other men.
100%. And you have, and I think it's really important to document that too, by the way. Like, I say that I say it about the drinking thing too, but when I talk about my friends, like, I think my best TikTok that I've ever posted was just a video of us having boys' night dinner where like one of my buddies made steaks and he brought it out on a thing and like 20 million people watch it. And it's like, oh my God, holy shit. Like the amount of comments that are like, yo, I wish I had friends like this, or I wish I had friend group like this. And, you know, it is a really, this goes for everything in life, but it's a winner take most society. And it's like, once you kind of got your crew, we've got an extended crew of like 20 guys now that are in the city, that are cool dudes, that are like, go to the bar any given night, go to the bar any given night, go party. And one of the reasons why I'm so like kind and outgoing, especially with the Goldies parties, is like, for a year and a half when I first moved down here when I was Canadian, I didn't know one person. I didn't know anybody. I'm not even from this country. Like, I just moved down here from work. I knew 2 guys from Jersey. They were from Wayne, New Jersey. And they were older than me from work. And so I would like get on a bus and go like to New Jersey to party, not even to party, like to go to a bar. They're like, hey, we're going out after work. You want to come? Here I am on a fucking bus leaving Manhattan to go to the thing. Because like, if you don't have that connection and you don't have those relationships and you don't know who to call, like, holy shit, dude, like that, my entire life, I am so grateful. I randomly met my friends through a friend of a friend that was like, and I remember being very forthcoming with it. I met this girl and she's like, oh, you don't know anybody. And I'm like, no, I need friends. Like, I'm a cool dude. I have a ton of friends back home, really popular guy. But then when you move down here, you don't need friends. And you have to be like cool with it. Like, yo, yeah, man, I need some friends. And I had a guy slide into my DMs the other day that was like, hey, you're a really cool dude. Hey, would you like to get, go out for a slice of pizza? And now we're like friends. Yeah, we had a bro date the other day. And it was like, now loop them into my kind of crew and that kind of thing. So it's important for guys to do that. Yeah. You have to do that, man. Like, you got to be a cool dude and you got to be a kind dude. And those are the dudes that win at the end of the day. You guys are going to make it so much further, too. How you said everyone's kind of in different industries. You can all lift each other up. You all have different connections. Oh, yeah. I think it's so amazing, and it shows how many people do want that in our culture. And I even had a conversation like this of someone who was from a different culture, and I said it's so amazing that I feel like all his friends that he had since he was little, they all lift each other up. They're all mega successful, and they all are helping each other. Yeah. And like, that's not something I can relate to that much. Yeah. I've met amazing people along the way, but it's more so one person from here, one person from there. It's not the crew. But there's no crew that I grew up with that I'm like, we all have each other's backs. Yeah. And it's something that is so important, and you can make it further with more people that are all genuine and genuinely looking out for other people. Oh yeah, and like our friend group is, I don't mean to like brag, or mega successful people. Yeah. Like business owners, exited companies, you know, VPs at big firms. And like, well, people need to realize it because young guys can learn from this. I mean, my little brother is in college right now and he wants to get into finance and all of this. I think this is a great lesson for him. It's great to know that when you have, and he has great guy friends, but it's great to know that when you have those friends and that you uplift each other, that you can make it a lot farther and have such a great life and all support each other. Yeah, and it's an accountability thing and a standards thing, and like, it's crazy how one or two shit guys in a friend group could like really corrupt. And, you know, to have that kind of higher standard of guys, like I said, with the thing in New Orleans, when you have a guy, that guy's not coming back. We're going to Austin in 2 weeks for our spring trip. And it's like, you're not invited back. Yeah. So that's the deal. Like, if you don't fit in with, if you're going to be the drinker and the pusher on in terms of getting fucked up, like, hey, everybody's cool with drinking and to each their own. But if you're going to be the guy that's really like pushy, and that's not really what we're about. Yeah, and like, listen, we don't want to be around that. And like, you know, if you're going to be that, I think people look at that, especially for guys, they're just used to like, they're just used to being like the drinking, partying, frat mentality of like, oh, I'm going to do the keg stand the longest. And like, that's going to like prove my value as like, it's like the types of people that respect that are fucking losers.
Yeah.
And the types of guys that are like, hey, yeah, have some drinks and we're going to go fucking wheel some chicks and then we're going to go dancing and it doesn't matter. We're going to be goofballs and we're going to be kind. Those are the strongest kind of dudes.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that looking back, like those things that, oh, do the keg stand the longest, the party tricks, a person buying shots.
Yep.
It works when you're younger,
Yep.
and then it works for people who never grow up.
Yes, totally
or never
agree.
develop interpersonally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look back on those things, and you almost feel a little cringe now.
Oh, I know. I was the guy buying shots at the bar. I have so many.
Yeah, it was me too. Yeah.
It was so, it's just like, because you're young and you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing and you're trying to fit in. Everybody's trying to fit in and like, it's crazy. If you don't find that guy friend by the time you're like 25, 26, it's harder to, and it gets harder and harder to meet people that are, as you get older. Now, New York is a bit of an exception to the rule because, you know, there's all the guys here, Peter Pan syndrome, like nobody wants to grow up. So it's like by the time you're in your early 30s, we're still like going out and partying and everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to kind of get your crew and it's crazy how it can snowball. Now everybody, you know, with our group, we've lost some guys, but we've got some guys that are like, hey, you moved downtown in your mid-20s or you know, early 30s. It's like, yeah, why don't you come out with us? I know a guy from school or another guy from business school that's like, hey, really cool dude.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can say from experience too, when you are that person trying to do the tricks, trying to do the keg stand the longest, it's because you don't know what you're bringing to the table without it. You think, okay, how do I captivate the attention? How do I prove myself in this situation?
Yeah.
And you think that's the way. And now it's like, I walk into a room, I don't have to prove myself because even if I'm not accepted, I know that what I'm worth and it's not a 70-second keg stand.
Yeah. And there's no shortcut to that feeling either, by the way. You have to do work and that you have to go to the gym and you have to be doing well in your career and all those things kind of build up. I think it's easy to sit here and say like, oh yeah, I just walk into a room and know my worth. Well, what that's built on top of is doing doing a lot, but, you know, getting good sleep and feeling great about yourself. And are you in the best shape of your life? Yeah. Are you eating well? Are you doing the podcast thing where you can be like, oh, I'm contributing and I'm feeling, you know, positive. That's the foundation on which somebody can be like, yeah, I walk in the room. I don't like, now for me
this took years. This is not just me saying that I had this. This is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I used to have extremely low self-esteem and that's why I felt like I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely years of work and investigating things, understanding yourself and finding the right people.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on and getting real about everything.
I know. This was a real conversation. No, it was a really great conversation. Thank you guys so much for having me. Honestly, this has been a great time. The setup's incredible. So, and we got to get you out to one of the parties. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I came here. I really came to New York. I was telling you earlier, I always wanted to come here because I feel like there's so much opportunity here, but also because of the people. Because I've always been after that high achieving type vibe where people are lifting each other up and want everyone else to do well and they want to do well.
Yeah, and then there's also that it's not necessarily a feeling of competition, but it's almost like inspiration where it's like, yo, I can see you doing really well and yo, if you can do it, I can do it. And like, I know you and like, hey, you know, you're kind of in the thing and like, and it lights a little bit of a fire under your ass to be like, oh man, like, hey, I want to fucking throw a party too. Or really, hey, I want to meet some people. And like that kind of, I don't know, it just kind of gives you a kick in the ass a little bit. Yeah,
I think there's so many inspiring people here. Even without the people, just being in the city, I feel inspired. And that's a feeling every time I came to New York, I had a feeling like I've never felt before where I just never wanted to leave. And I felt like electrified. And I just finally made the decision I need to move towards that feeling.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we'll plug you in. I got a massive network here, so definitely
get out. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We got real. Thanks for tuning in and getting real with us. Podcast will be posted every other Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Please reach out via DM if you want to chat.